Hmm.
You ready?
123.
You ready, Alan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm still not sure if Paul's ready.
Yeah, see.
You're good? Is that what that means?
I heard him say something that had 3 in it.
Hold on, let me throw up a link here. I forgot.
Throw it up
I
there.
should probably
Throw up a link.
retweet it.
Speaking of which, where's my phone?
Whoa.
Oh, did you get your phone already?
Oh, I got it. No, I didn't get my phone. Mine hasn't even shipped yet.
What? Oh, that
It
sucks
still
for you.
says preparing for shipment, but it still says guarantee. It still says expected date Friday, September 19th. So maybe it just doesn't have as far to go for me. I don't know.
I don't know either. What
If
about
it hasn't shipped by tomorrow afternoon, I'm probably gonna give them a call just to make sure everything's okay.
give him a call? Give him a retweet.
We're going straight to
Wild West.
Did you tweet that link, Seth?
I'm Facebooking it right now.
What's a link?
Who Facebooks?
I do.
I have more followers on Facebook these days than I do on Twitter. I actually think I'm losing. Apparently I never copied the link. That's cool.
Copy. Who copies?
Everyone.
Oh.
It's not letting me grab the link. I don't know why.
They say that
I
good
can't
artists
grab.
copy.
It's not going to let me grab the link. Oh, there we go. I got it.
You got it? I believe in you.
I believe I can fly.
I believe in corn pot pie.
Corn pot pie.
Yeah, have you ever had corn pot pie?
I do not believe in corn pot pie.
Oh, well,
Think
you're missing
about it every night and day.
Spread my wings and fly away.
I believe I can soar.
Okay.
Something about the open door.
Oh my gosh, Alan, you gotta stop. We've got to get this thing started. I mean,
Okay, let's go. Let's go. You guys ready? Episode 123, Paul. Oh,
Oh, that's awesome. I'm so glad you just did that. I mean, that makes me so happy.
I think one of those things from the strain is in my throat.
Sick.
I'm gonna throw up.
Sick. Have you seen that, Seth?
Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go.
Have you
Ready?
seen the stream?
Here we go. No, that's a thing. Oh
Bam.
gosh. Okay, 3, 2, 1, go.
You're listening to Ancillary Characters, episode 123. Hashtag Flash Month.
Wild, wild. Wicked wild west. Jim West, Desperado, Rough Rider. No, you don't want nada. None of this. It's gunning this, rather running this. Buffalo soldier. Look, it's like I told you. Any damsel that's in distress, be out of that dress when she meet Jim West. Roughneck, so go check the law on the vibe. Watch your step, reflex, and get a hold on your side. Swallow your pride. Don't let your lip react. You don't want to see my hand where my hip be at.
Ancillary Characters, naturally. Podcast of the website, ancillarycharacters.com. Coming in live for, well, not if you're listening to the podcast, but coming in live for another episode of Flash Month.
Roll into the when I stroll into the when I bounce into the
Part right there.
Wild West.
Continuing Flash Month as we dive headfirst into the John's Manapul Barry Allen pool. I'm joined by my two co-hosts, Mr. Alan Boone.
That's me. Because we're
And
singing.
Mr. Paul Shirley.
Yeah, that's me.
This
Paul Shirley.
music just cut out right there. Paul, how are you?
Swell. I'm doing good. I'm swell. Doing
You had a
very
good
well.
day?
You know, I can't complain.
Not allowed. Never
Not
heard
allowed.
that one.
Nice.
Alan, how are you?
I am swell.
Did either of you buy Captain America Winter Soldier on Blu-ray?
No.
Not yet, but I will.
I'm waiting on the Phase 2 Collector's Edition.
What about Godzilla?
Good. Is that out?
No.
Yeah, they're both out.
Oh, wow.
I don't know. I have no responsibility for the release schedule.
I saw both of those movies.
I did too.
Two good movies.
What the heck is happening? I accidentally opened Amazon and I'm on some Bigfoot horror story. What are we doing here tonight? We didn't even talk over beforehand. Paul, do we have news or anything?
I do have one thing, just
Okay.
a little thing.
Yeah, unload.
Apparently, it was just announced, and this is topical.
Mhm.
It's kind of funny though. A new villain. Yeah, it's hilarious. Just go ahead and chalk it up. A new villain has been cast in. How many villains have they cast for
There's a
season?
lot.
I mean,
Yeah.
are
that's a
they
lot.
building like an injustice society over there? You know,
I don't know what they're doing.
they cast Nick. I actually don't know what this guy's name is. I've just got his Twitter handle.
Uh-oh.
It says Nick Tarabay.
Terrible.
He's Captain Boomerang.
Okay.
So they have cast Captain Boomerang
Mm-hmm.
in Arrow for season 3.
Mm-hmm.
Ironically, Captain Boomerang is a Flash rogue.
Yes, that's true.
Perhaps this is part of a Flash Arrow crossover thing. Perhaps.
Oh, you mean he's on Arrow? I thought you were talking about Flash.
I just said that. I just specifically said it's funny that they put him on Arrow because he's a Flash villain.
I don't listen
But
when
he's on
you're
Gotham?
talking.
I've realized that. He's on Arrow.
Arrow.
He's on New Girl?
I
Oh,
wonder if he's Australian.
man, is anyone else excited for New Girl to come back?
I am.
Actually, I'm not as excited as I would have been at the beginning of last season because I really felt like reintroducing Coach led that show down a dark path.
Did you see the New Girl movie they're making?
A New Girl movie?
He's
Yeah.
talking about that Let's Be Cops. He keeps going for this joke, and he just keeps failing.
Oh,
He's
it's like
never
I
given
get
up.
it though. It makes sense. It's like what happened during the off season, huh?
It totally makes sense. I mean, it's essentially a New Girl the movie.
That could be an episode of New Girl where Nick and Coach become cops. I mean,
Yeah.
Winston wanted to be a cop, so he'd come in at some point and say, "Man, y'all are being cops. That was my dream, not yours."
I have a confession to make. I actually didn't see like the last half of last season.
I quit. My wife watched it, and I kind of like half watched some of it, but I wouldn't be able to tell you anything that happened towards the end of last season. The highlight of that show has become Winston for me.
Yeah, he's great. Well, I don't know. I still really like the main guy.
Schmidt, well, Jake Johnson's great, but I mean, yeah, actually, you're right. He's become really funny too. I think I like everyone on the show at this point except Coach, and he is almost single-handedly destroying the show for me.
What about Linda Cardinelli?
I don't know who that is. Oh, that's the smoker. She's got like smoker's face. The girl from Freaks and Geeks. She looks like she's 80.
Well,
Is that
what's
her?
it do there? She's the girl from Freaks and Geeks.
She looks rough. It looks like
I don't know what you're talking about.
it looks like life's been rough for her.
I'll give you that, but she plays a rough character, so maybe that's makeup.
I mean, maybe. Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking
They
about.
walk in. She walks into the trailer in the morning, the makeup trailer, and she's like, "Just make me look like I just crawled out of the gutter."
And they're like, "You look good. You're nailing it right now. Just go." Go.
Paul's jumping on the hate bandwagon with me.
I don't even know who we're talking about now.
I don't either. We're talking about the
Right
girl
under
that
the
played
bus.
Linda Carter, Wonder Woman. Right?
No, no. We're talking
I thought
about
that was All Girl.
You're talking about Velma from Scooby Doo, aren't you?
Mm.
She was Velma in the Scooby Doo movies.
Was she?
So did you guys see this new Kevin Smith horror movie where a man turns into a walrus?
Yes. I haven't seen the film itself, but see, most people know that I am a walrus aficionado. I'm a fan of the walrus.
Yeah, they're hanging all over your wall.
Look, check this out. Wait, what?
Nothing. That's pretty cool. He's for the listeners at home. He's holding up a small plaque of a walrus smoking a cigar, and he's got two bikini-clad babes on his arms.
Okay.
That's Only partly accurate.
Some of that's true. The rest of it is made up. We'll let you listeners guess which parts.
I have 3 walrus T-shirts. So when I heard that a podcaster no less, is going to be turned into a walrus on the silver screen, I got excited. But then I found out it's a horror movie. I thought it was like a fairy tale, a dream come true for this podcaster.
Yeah, because everyone wants to be a walrus.
Peed.
What?
What? The human walrus peed. Get it? Human centipede.
Because it's like human centipede.
Yeah, get it?
So let's actually talk about The Flash, which is what this episode is about.
All right.
Since this is the 3rd installment of our Flash Month.
A scarlet costume ejects from his ring, and in a blur of motion, police scientist Barry Allen becomes the Flash, world's fastest human. The Flash, whose speed enables him to vibrate through solid walls and conquer the barriers of time and space in the pursuit of evildoers. The Flash, Scarlet Speedster for justice.
So, welcome to the Flash segment of the show. I'm not even going to call it Take It or Leave It this week, because we all know we're probably all going to take it. Maybe. Who knows? Maybe it'll be a wild card. Maybe. But, it's the Flash segment. It's not a traditional Take It or Leave It. So, we are reviewing, discussing, pontificating on the Jeff Johns and Scott Collins / Francis Manapul / Brian Buccellato, and there may have even been others thrown in there somewhere, arc right before the New 52, right before Flashpoint. 12 issues, that's all this run entails, but 2 arcs as well as 2 one-shots. The first arc, The Dastardly Death of the Rogues, opens with a murder. A man wearing the Top's outfit, not the Top, is it Mirror Master? The Mirror Master's outfit is dead, but he's not Sam Scudder or the new Mirror Master, who's got a different name that I don't recall. He is someone else from the future, perhaps? When the Renegades show up, time cops from the future who arrest perpetrators before they commit their crimes accuse Barry Allen of the murder. But turns out that maybe he didn't do it, or did he? Or did he not? Or maybe it was one of the Renegades to protect his reputation. Who knows? We know, because we read it. Then the second arc is titled Road to Flashpoint. It opens with a mysterious motorcyclist called Hot Pursuit, driving around town, making tire tracks, and possibly being a serial killer who ages people to death. And it's revealed that this guy is also Barry Allen from an alternate universe, there to stop a time anomaly. And the Reverse Flash, who was released from his prison after being imprisoned in our previous review, Flash Rebirth, he has been released by the Boomerang and is wreaking havoc. And so there's Barry Allen from the alternate timeline, and there's the Reverse Flash, all going around changing time, maybe trying to prevent time anomalies. Flash, Road to Flashpoint.
There it is.
Yeah, I think that was my best one yet, guys.
I'm sorry, I wasn't listening. Paul sent a text. Can I get some complaints? In fact, I'm going to start with the negative. So this is going to be the first the first Flash book where I get into negatives, and I have a lot. All right. First of all, John's writing on this 12 issues of the Flash is his weakest since his first initial few issues on the Flash when he was writing Wally. It's not his fault either. Is the thing about it. You can literally see when Flashpoint became a completely DCU altering event. It is the issue where randomly that small boy becomes Zoom, and they start fitting things in. You can tell that at that point they're like, we got to cram everything in and finish this up by Flashpoint. He had to wrap up all these story arcs. There's things left dangling. There's Captain Boomerang story is never really completed. There's just tons of stuff that's at the end is just still hanging out there. He introduces Patty Spivot in the final issue simply so we know who she is when they relaunch the book under the New 52, and it's like painfully obvious now that I'm reading it again. I guess at the time I probably just had no clue, but it's like all of a sudden there's this character who's never been in the book, and they go through this whole, like, there's literally a block of text where Barry is just kind of awkwardly explaining to us, the audience, who she is. And it comes out of nowhere. And at the time, I'm sure I was just like, why is this happening? And now, looking back, I'm like, okay. And none of it's John's fault. Like, I understand at this point, he probably had to set that character up so because she's going to be in the book when it relaunched. The other thing that's really awkward is they had to give Manapul this lead into the New 52, so he disappears at random for the last 2 issues, and Scott Collins comes on. And normally I love Scott Collins, but this is that Scott Collins art that he was doing there right off of the it was that Justice Society era. Scott Collins, he had been drawing the Justice Society book, not the Jeff Johns one, but the one after Jeff Johns. I can't remember who was writing it. And he was doing this weird art style where it was almost like painted. He was kind of going for this, I don't know what to compare it to, but it didn't feel like Scott Collins. It's still fine. It's still good art, but it's not the Scott Collins that I loved from earlier in the book's history. And I just feel like in these, especially the last 4 issues, I actually really enjoy the first 6 issues, and I think the last 4 issues are fine for what they are, but you can tell everything is just racing, no pun intended, to get to the flashpoint and kind of set up what's going to happen there. So, and also there is very little character development going on here, which has always been my favorite thing about John's Flash books. So, I'm sorry to start us off on that foot, but I feel like I have to before we talk about what's good about
I disagree with the last thing you said about the character development, because like there's almost an entire issue in the middle of that last arc devoted to Barry going home and his family doing an intervention to tell him that he needs to slow down.
It doesn't go anywhere. He
alienates his whole family. Well, it goes to that. I mean, that's what it goes to.
I mean, it doesn't go anywhere. I mean, there's no resolution to that.
There's no resolution, but it was developing. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
That's the problem with this book, is that all the 90% of the arcs that John's tried to set up in that first book are just let go.
Yeah. It's really a shame to be reading it too, because it's 12 issues and he's setting up something great, especially in that first 6 issue. We got to talk about the dastardly death of the Rogues, because I kind of set that apart from the last 4 issues.
It feels separate.
Yeah, the first 6 issues, the dastardly death of the Rogues, which is very hard to say fast, I think is great. Manapul's art is amazing, and it's just a great 6-issue story arc. And it's a great introduction to the character and the Rogues and all that stuff. Alan, how did you feel about this? I'm talking. I gotta shut up.
Me? Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll be honest with you. Whenever this first came out, this was one of the first series I started pulling weekly, or monthly, I should say. This was right when I first started buying comics, and this was probably my favorite of the books I was pulling. Love the art, love the story. However, I remember vaguely disliking the second story, but loving the first story.
Mm-hmm.
This time, I feel like it was almost backwards.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I did really enjoy the first story, and I also enjoyed the second story, but I think I enjoyed the second one a little bit more, just because I don't really know why. I don't know, it's like, I felt like it was, I don't know, I loved all of the foreshadowing of Flashpoint. I think it was better for me reading it after having read Flashpoint, because a lot of there was so much just building toward Flashpoint. The stuff with the Reverse Flash, the inner turmoil that Barry Allen was having. I know y'all talked about his character development. I felt like the character development he had, the stress, the distance that he had, was all building towards Flashpoint, and that it culminated in. We'll talk about this next week, but it culminated in the climax of Flashpoint without giving too much away.
Yeah, I did love that.
And my favorite issue out of all of this is Reverse Flash Rebirth.
Yep.
The art was incredible, and Reverse Flash, we talked about this last time, is a scary villain. I mean, and the art in this book made him absolutely terrifying. Not even the art, but the way the story was told. He was a broken, demented, evil man, and he just gets more broken and evil throughout the story. You can tell he's taken things away from himself, making himself more he's making himself less of a man and more of a monster. The way he manipulates his timeline. I love that issue. That was my favorite.
Yeah, I agree. That was a great issue. And I did like a lot of things about that last 4 issues. I'm not saying I hated it. I didn't hate any of this. I like it all. And I genuinely think I love the first 6 issues, especially in those 2 little rogue profile issues. I loved the Captain Boomerang stuff.
That was good too.
I really enjoyed the Barry as like this time traveling cop on a motorcycle thing. I thought that was really cool. And Manapul's art was really good, and I liked the Collins art on the Flash Rebirth issue, but I did not care for it when it came into the middle of the story in the 4-issue arc.
I agree with that. It was jarring.
Yeah, it was jarring because it was Manapul, and then all of a sudden it was this Scott Collins that's very different from what we're used to, and it's not the stuff that I like the most of Collins.
Yeah, it was different, and at first, honestly, I didn't even know it was Scott Collins. Like when it switched, it was so jarring. I was like, "Who is this?" And then, like he drew. I remember I saw someone maybe like the Flash's face, because Collins has a very distinctive way of drawing faces, especially in the eyes. I don't know what it is, makes them stand out.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, "Oh, this is Scott Collins," and it was still good. Like I still liked that art, but it's not even close to what we got on, say, Blitz. You know, it doesn't even come close to that. So, I don't know. Go ahead.
It's really interesting, too, as you're reading this, to try to speculate on what was going on at DC at that point. Like, where were their heads at in terms of what Flashpoint was going to be and what was going to come out of it? Like, I know I've read different things, and obviously it's all hearsay, but supposedly like Johns was fighting behind the scenes to keep the old DCU, and did he leave himself a back door going into Flashpoint anywhere? I mean, I think he did. I think if Johns wants to, they could rewrite history and go back to the original DCU while incorporating the New 52 continuity. I'm sure if anyone could make that happen, it's Johns. But it's interesting to wonder, going into this, did Johns have all this great rewriting of DC history planned? I mean, or was this just like, was Flashpoint just going to be a line-wide crossover that he was planning on writing that revolved around the Flash? And then it became this, well, as long as we have the time travel stuff, we can rewrite everything.
Wasn't there a significant gap between the end of this run and Flashpoint #1?
No. In fact, if I remember right, the final issue of Flash came out like the same week that Flashpoint #1 came out. Am I right, Paul? Because like there was a delay really bad on the end of Flash, and I feel if I remember right, they both came out the same day, Flash and Flashpoint.
I can't remember. I'll look it up, but I honestly believe, like, I think you're right. I think Johns had to have given himself a way out. I won't be shocked if we see some things in Flashpoint when we read it for next week's episode that, oh, maybe this was his way of leaving the door open, you know. Honestly, don't think it would be that hard story-wise for them to do that. It would essentially just take someone realizing what happened and then working to fix it. So I don't know what Johns did or did not do. I am definitely curious to know. I've heard some people make some pretty pointed comments and say there's no way Jeff Johns had planned for that the whole time. And he did some setting up for Flashpoint. I believe he probably had meant to do all that setting up but maybe was he had to speed it along because of what they decided to do. You know?
See, what makes me think, knowing Johns, not Johns, not John, not John Johns, knowing Johns, I think if he knew going into Flashpoint that this 12 issues was going to be a finite story, he would have written it as a finite story. It wouldn't have been this. It does not come across as a story that has a beginning, middle, and an end. It comes across as the beginning of a run on a book. And then heading into Flashpoint in those last couple issues, you can see him start to try to wrap things up in some way that, rewards the people who have been reading all along.
It is definitely jarring. And honestly, like, for example, I think that he had planned on leading into Flashpoint because they were I don't know if you remember, but they were advertising Flashpoint.
Oh yeah.
A long time before it came out.
Wasn't it at the end of like the first? Is it at the end of the very first issue that it talks about Flashpoint?
Something like is that Secret Files or whatever of Barry Allen? That was like a zero issue kind of.
Yeah,
that came out
I read
before the
that.
first issue.
Yeah.
That was that. So I believe Johns was planning Flashpoint.
No, I know for a fact Flashpoint was on the table.
Yeah, my question is, was it expedited? Because he's 5 or 6 issues into this, and then all of a sudden, here comes the road to Flashpoint.
It makes even less sense if you read the Rogue Profile issues, because those seem like he's setting up something that's going to be long term. And I guess the Zoom one kind of makes sense because he's really introducing Zoom to new readers, kind of. But
I don't think that he originally intended Flashpoint to start the New 52. Personally, I didn't think that whenever I read Flashpoint because the thing at the end of Flashpoint, where it says basically the universe has changed forever now, felt like an afterthought. It was just shoved in there. You see Pandora's eyes and it says 3 universes merged together. Talking about Vertigo and Wildstorm. It's like Flashpoint to me didn't really explain the New 52 except that things didn't completely go back to normal after that. But on top of that, the gap I was thinking of, you're right, issue 12 did come out the same time as Flashpoint number 1.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a gap between 11 and 12. 11 came out in January and 12 came out in
May. Or something. Yeah.
So to me, that kind of gap would make me think that maybe he had to change some stuff around because
I think that's probably true, and I think probably Manapul had to move off around that time to head on to the New 52 stuff, because remember that DC scrambled all their artists and everything. I mean, all of a sudden, all their A-list talent, which at that time wasn't a ton, but all of a sudden at that time, all their A-list talent disappeared from main titles. Remember, Tomasi and Gleason were suddenly not doing Batman and Robin.
Didn't Paul Cornell do a couple issues or something?
Yeah, and Manapul was gone from Flash, and there were all these, like, all their main guys suddenly disappeared, Scott Snyder and everything. And what they were doing was they were getting a jump on the New 52 stuff, because the big New 52, one of the selling points was that every month, no matter what, there wasn't going to be a late title. Everything was going to be on time. I don't know. It's interesting when you're reading this just to see what Johns is still capable of when he's up against this insane editorial mandated line-wide crossover event that's going to completely rewrite all the history of the characters. I mean, everything that he has set up since bringing Barry back with Rebirth is going to be written under the table. I mean, he knows that. So there had to be, I mean, knowing Johns and the way he writes, there had to be some bad blood.
Yeah, I kind of hate to think about that too, because honestly, I think they should just let Jeff make all the decisions.
Yeah.
Just let him write every book and make all the decisions.
We've got your back, Jeff.
You know?
Jeff for Prez.
Word. I don't know. I did enjoy this story, especially that first arc, and I feel like we lost talking about that. But the first arc does a really good job of bringing the rogues back into view.
Mm-hmm.
I love some of those spots with Captain Cold and that old rogue code, like the fact that they're trying to make that Cold is going to make Captain Boomerang break out of prison on his own to prove his worth and if he's worth getting back in the team.
Yeah.
It's a really cool idea to have these rogue copies that were created as policemen to battle Professor Zoom in the 25th century. It's very Flash, and you feel the awkwardness that Barry's going through, being thrown back into this life after rebirth. But you can also feel like the way that his family's kind of looking at him, like, what's wrong? I felt like that was really exemplified in the second arc when he and Kid Flash finally come head to head, and Kid Flash is like, okay, you're avoiding all this because you don't want to be around me.
Yeah, I love those character bits with Bart and Barry.
Yeah, and it makes me, honestly, more than anything else, it makes me wish we'd gotten another 12 issues
Or
in the middle.
Or 50 issues.
Exactly, and another 600 issues in the middle there between the first arc and the second arc, because I believe Johns had a plan long term. He was ready to get back onto the Flash after a break. He's ready to.
Yeah, and he came out of the gate swinging. Like he's got this story arc with this time traveling band of rogues who are they're not rogues, they're police officers from the future, and it's basically this Minority Report situation where they can see crimes before they're committed. So they're coming to get Barry because he killed someone. And the rogues are all, what's his name? It's not Captain Cold, it's
Commander Cold.
Commander Cold, who's the leader, and he's
the Renegades.
Yeah, and they're cops, and it's this really cool turning on the head of traditional Flash characterization, and then you've got Flash teaming up with the Rogues essentially to stop these guys. I guess it's the other way around. I just read this like 2 days ago, and now I can't remember anything. Anyway, I did really enjoy the first 6 issues. I think the last 6 issues, those 2 middle issues, the Rogue Profile issues, are great, and then the last 4 have good spots in them. Like there's good moments, but everything is kind of rushed. And also having a time travel, another story where it's a little different, but if you think about it, it's still a character from an alternate take on the character comes and visits Barry. It's very similar to the first story arc.
It is.
Which is odd.
I feel like they would have slow built up to that too if they'd have had time between up to Flashpoint. That maybe this guy would have been showing up and disappearing randomly. That there would have been little things hinting at Flashpoint leading up to this.
How about Zoom getting to kill Barry finally?
Oh man, that was a crazy
dream realized.
Crazy scene.
Yeah, he is a demented man.
He is.
Yeah. It's still a take it. Like the Manapul art in the first 6 issues alone makes it a take it. But I think there's enough good in the last 4, to make it worthwhile.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't know. I feel like overall it's still good. Like we're picking it apart mainly because of what we know it was for, and not as much because of what was there. Don't get me wrong. There are things that are there that were issues, but it's still a good story. And the first part's superior to the second to me. But I enjoyed the second part better. I think it is good. It's well written. It just kind of makes me sad thinking about what we could have had. Because I feel like they were really building up some cool stuff with the family, the Flash family getting to see Barry settling back in after being gone for all these years, seeing what they were going to do with Wally now that there's another Flash in town. How do they handle that? All those things that I was so excited about. Because I remember when, after Rebirth, reading some interviews with John, he's talking about, what are they going to do with Wally? He's like, oh, don't worry, we've got big plans for Wally. And he's got this new costume, but he's going to be kind of stepping out of the view for a little while, and then he'll be back in a big way. And I'm like, oh man, I wonder what they're going to do there. Well, they didn't do anything because they rebooted the universe and went to the New 52.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been a proponent of the New 52 Flash, and some of that stuff's really good, especially like the Guerrilla War and all that stuff with the Rogues, building them up. Some of that's really good stuff, but I still think, I know that I would rather have had Johns writing it with Manapul drawing than Manapul and Buccellato, which they did a good job. And it's funny because Manapul and Buccellato did that first arc. I mean, Buccellato was on the art, was on the colors.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if Johns didn't even kind of, like hold their hand through the story and kind of give them, like help them get settled into the Flash.
Mm-hmm.
Makes me wonder since they were working together.
Yep.
So, let's take it from me too.
Take it. But with reservations on my part.
Yeah.
Flashpoint.
Next week, Flashpoint. Get ready. Gear up.
I'm excited. I haven't read it since it was released monthly.
Yeah, me either. I have it.
Me.
I got it from the library. I actually had these Flash issues in floppy.
Yeah, I've got. I don't think I have all of those. I actually think I'm missing like the last 4.
I have a one lone long box full of single issue comics left, and this happens to be the one full run of something that I have in there.
I have that beautiful deluxe Flashpoint hardcover.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
With
I just got it from the library because I don't own this. I don't own Flashpoint yet. I'm waiting to buy it. Let's exit.
But thank you for listening to the show this week.
This has been Ancillary Characters. You can find us on the web at ancillarycharacters.com. You can find us on Twitter at Ancillary Tweets. You can find me on Twitter at Seth Breeds Love. You can find Alan on Twitter at KAllenBoone. You can find Paul on Twitter at JollyGreen05.
Yep.
We'll be back next week. Again, Flashpoint. Read ahead. Send us your thoughts on Flashpoint. Let us know you're actually listening to the show. That would be nice. Letters to ancillarycharacters at gmail.com. Leave us a rating and review on iTunes if you're someone who still listens. I think that does it. Did I skip anything? Is that it?
I think that's it.
All right. We'll be back next week. Peace out. Flashpoint. Hashtag Flashpoint.
We did it.
We did it. We did it.
Another one in the can. I don't know why the whole